23 years of mopping floors in the same building. My son-in-law thought I was just another invisible face pushing a cleaning cart. He had no idea who signed his paychecks. I'm 62 now, and I've learned that people reveal their true character when they think you can't affect their lives. That's why I never told my daughter Rebecca what I really did for a living. After her mother died 7 years ago, I wanted her to find someone who valued character over credentials. Someone who would treat a janitor with the same respect they'd show a CEO. Turned out I was asking too much. The first time I met Trevor Blackwood, he walked past me in the lobby of Garrison Tower without a glance. I was emptying the recycling bins near the elevator bay. He was on his phone, laughing about some deal he'd just closed, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble I'd buffed that morning. Rebecca was beside him, glowing in a way I hadn't seen since her mother passed. "Dad." She spotted me and waved. "Come meet Trevor." He turned, saw my blue coveralls with maintenance stitched across the back, and his smile tightened. The handshake was brief, limp, the kind you give someone you're already dismissing. "Nice to meet you, sir," he said, but his eyes were already scanning the lobby for someone more important. "You work here?" he asked, though the mop bucket beside me made it obvious. 23 years, I said. "That's great. Real job security in that." He checked his watch. "Babe, we should go. Reservations at 8. Rebecca squeezed my arm. "Dinner Sunday? I'll cook." "I'd like that." I watched them leave. Trevor held the door for her, at least. That was something. What Trevor didn't know was that I'd sat in the boardroom on the 42nd floor that very morning, reviewing the quarterly reports for Garrison Properties. As the founder and majority shareholder, I liked to stay informed. I'd started the company 38 years ago with a single apartment building in Winnipeg. Now we owned commercial properties across 3 provinces. But after Margaret died, the executive title felt hollow. I promoted my VP to CEO, took a chairman role that required minimal visibility, and found a kind of peace in the simple work of keeping buildings clean. Rebecca thought I'd retired early on Margaret's life insurance. I let her believe it. Her mother and I had agreed long ago that we'd raise her without the complications of wealth. We wanted her grounded, real. Margaret had grown up in a family that measured worth in stock portfolios and club memberships, and she'd hated every minute of it. So I mopped floors, and I watched Trevor Blackwood. The second incident happened 3 months later. Rebecca and Trevor had been dating for almost a year by then, and she'd started mentioning wedding venues. I was happy for her. Cautious, but happy. I was restocking paper towels in the men's room on the 34th floor when I heard voices outside. Trevor's voice, specifically. He was with 2 other lawyers from Hartley and Cross, the firm that leased the entire floor. "You're really marrying the janitor's daughter," one of them said. "That's bold, Trev." They were standing right outside the door. I froze. Trevor laughed. "I know how it sounds, but Rebecca's different. She went to Queens, works in consulting, pulls in 6 figures. She's not her father. Still, man, wedding photos with Dad in his coveralls? God, no. I'll handle it. Keep him in the background, minimal visibility. My parents are already skeptical enough. They don't need to see me coming from poverty stock." "Poverty stock." The other lawyer whistled. "That's cold. It's realistic. Look, I love Rebecca, but her dad's a $50 handout away from pushing a shopping cart. I'm not letting that define my marriage." They moved down the hall, laughter fading. I stood there with a stack of paper towels in my hands, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The blue coveralls, the gray hair, the weathered hands that had built a company worth $400 million. I could have walked out there, could have told him exactly who he was talking about. But Margaret's voice echoed in my memory, something she'd said when Rebecca was 16 and furious about not getting a car for her birthday like her friends. "Let her earn things, Robert. Let her learn that people matter more than possessions. Otherwise, she'll end up like my family, rich and miserable and never knowing who truly cares about them." So I kept quiet. I finished restocking the bathroom, and I decided to wait. The third incident was the breaking point, though I didn't act even then. Rebecca invited me to an engagement party at Trevor's parents' estate in Oakville. The invitation came with a gentle warning. "Dad, Trevor's family is formal. I bought you a new suit. Please wear it." "I have suits," I said. "I know, but this one is. It's nice. Really nice. Just trust me. The suit was Hugo Boss. Tag still on? $1,200. I almost laughed. I owned suits that cost 3 times that, hanging in the closet of my real home in Forest Hill. But Rebecca didn't know about that house. She thought I lived in the modest 2-bedroom in East York that I'd kept as a mailing address. I wore the suit. I drove my 10-year-old Honda Civic to the Blackwood estate, and I knew, pulling up to the circular driveway behind a row of Mercedes and Teslas, that this evening would tell me everything I needed to know. Trevor's mother, Patricia Blackwood, greeted guests at the door. She saw me coming up the steps, and her smile crystallized. You must be Rebecca's father. Robert, is it? Yes, ma'am. Beautiful home. Thank you. We've been here 20 years. Trevor's father designed it himself. He's an architect, you know. Quite successful. She paused. And you're in maintenance work, Rebecca mentioned. Building maintenance. Yes. How industrious. The way she said it made industrious sound like a synonym for unfortunate. Inside, the party was elegant. Catered food, a string quartet, about 60 guests in cocktail attire. Rebecca found me near the bar, looking nervous. You doing okay, Dad? Fine. This is lovely. Trevor's parents wanted to do something big. You know how it is. I didn't, actually. When Margaret and I got engaged, we'd had pizza with a handful of friends in our apartment. But I nodded. The trouble started during the toasts. Trevor's father, Gordon Blackwood, stood up with a microphone, champagne glass raised. He talked about Trevor's accomplishments. Law degree from Osgood Hall, partnership track at Hartley and Cross, a bright future ahead. Then he turned to Rebecca. And we're delighted to welcome Rebecca to our family. Bright, accomplished, beautiful. She's everything we could hope for in a daughter-in-law. Polite applause. Rebecca beamed. Now, I understand Rebecca's mother passed some years ago, so we're missing that maternal presence tonight. But her father, Robert, is here. Gordon scanned the crowd and found me. Robert, stand up. Let everyone see you. I stood slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. Robert works in building maintenance. Blue-collar, honest work. The kind of work that built this country, really. And I think it's wonderful that Rebecca has risen above her circumstances to become the woman she is today. A real testament to her determination. The room went silent. Even the string quartet paused between songs. Rebecca's face went pale. Trevor shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Gordon raised his glass higher. To Rebecca, for showing us that where you come from doesn't define where you're going. They drank. I sat down. Rebecca found me 10 minutes later on the terrace, where I'd escaped for air. Dad, I'm so sorry. He didn't mean it the way it sounded, didn't he? He's old-fashioned. He thinks he's being complimentary. Rebecca. I took her hand. Do you think you rose above circumstances? She looked away. I just want everyone to get along. That's not what I asked. Dad, please. Not tonight. Trevor appeared in the doorway. Babe, pictures. The photographer's ready. She squeezed my hand and left. I stayed on the terrace for another 20 minutes, watching the moon rise over the sculpted gardens. I designed estates like this, owned properties that made this house look modest. But standing there in my $1,200 suit, being pitied by a man whose architectural firm had once pitched for one of my contracts and lost, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not embarrassment. Clarity. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to my assistant, David Chen, who'd been running operations while I played janitor. Need to reactivate my office. Monday morning. Full schedule. His reply came 30 seconds later. Everything okay, Robert? Everything's fine. Time to stop hiding. But I didn't tell Rebecca. Not yet. Because I needed to see one more thing. I needed to see if Trevor would defend me when I wasn't in the room. The wedding planning took over Rebecca's life for the next 4 months. She'd stop by my apartment with fabric swatches and menu options, asking opinions I gave carefully. Trevor was always too busy to join her. Too many cases, too many clients, too many networking events. I kept working at Garrison Tower, kept mopping floors, emptying trash bins, replacing light bulbs. The building manager, Sandra Kim, was one of the few people who knew my real identity. She'd been with the company for 15 years. Mr. Garrison, this is insane, she said one Tuesday afternoon, finding me unclogging a toilet on the 18th floor. You own this building. You own 47 buildings. Why are you doing this? Research, I said. For what? Character assessment. She didn't ask again. I saw Trevor almost daily. He worked late, often leaving the building around 9 or 10 at night. I'd be vacuuming the hallways, and he'd walk past without acknowledgement. Not a nod. Not a good evening. Nothing. Once, I held the elevator for him when he was rushing toward it, arms full of case files. He stepped in, hit the button for 34, and continued his phone conversation without even glancing at me. Yeah, we're going with the Royal York for the reception. Rebecca wanted something smaller, but my parents are inviting half of Toronto, so, yeah, no, it'll be fine. Her family side is pretty small. Just her dad and a couple aunts. Low-key people. We'll put them at the back tables. The elevator doors opened. He walked out, still talking. I pressed the button for the ground floor and descended in silence. The fourth incident happened 2 weeks before the wedding. Rebecca brought the seating chart to my apartment, stressed and exhausted. She spread it across my kitchen table, pointing to the elaborate layout. What do you think? I put you at table 12. It's near the dance floor. I looked at the chart. Table 12 was in the back corner, partially behind a decorative column. Trevor's family occupied the front tables, near the head table. Rebecca's 2 aunts were at table 9, closer to the center. Why am I separate from your aunts? She hesitated. Trevor thought it might be better to distribute family, make it feel more blended. Rebecca. Okay, fine. His mother said it would be awkward to have the service industry table too visible in the photos. Those were her words, not mine. And Trevor agreed with this? He's trying to keep the peace, Dad. His parents are paying for most of the wedding. I offered to contribute. I know. But Trevor said we didn't need. She stopped herself. Didn't need what? She folded the seating chart quickly. Nothing. It's fine. Everything's fine. But her hands were shaking. I made us tea. We sat in silence for a while. Mom would have liked Trevor, she said finally. Right? I thought about Margaret. About her spine of steel, her intolerance for pretension, her ability to see through people in 30 seconds flat. Your mother would have liked anyone who made you happy, I said carefully. But she would have demanded respect. For herself, for you, for everyone. Trevor respects me. Does he respect the people you love? She didn't answer. The wedding was held on a Saturday in late September at the Royal York Hotel. Rebecca looked stunning in her dress, a vision in white lace that would have made Margaret cry with pride. I walked her down the aisle, felt her trembling arm in mine, and whispered, "You can still change your mind." She laughed nervously. "Cold feet? Just checking. I love him, Dad." I kissed her cheek and gave her away. The ceremony was beautiful, traditional. The vows were standard, nothing personalized. But Rebecca's voice shook with emotion when she said, "I do." The reception was a different story. I found table 12 behind the column, just as advertised. My 2 dining companions were a cousin of Trevor's mother, who spent the entire meal on her phone, and an elderly couple who turned out to be the parents of Trevor's law school roommate. They were kind enough, but we had nothing in common. From my vantage point, I could barely see the head table. The speeches started after dinner. Trevor's best man told a story about Trevor winning a mock trial in law school by, quote, absolutely destroying the opposing counsel's credibility. Everyone laughed. Trevor looked proud. Rebecca's maid of honor, her college roommate Jessica, talked about Rebecca's kindness and intelligence. It was sweet, generic, but sweet. Then Trevor stood up for his groom's speech. He thanked his parents, thanked the guests, turned to Rebecca, with champagne raised. "I'm the luckiest man in the world. Rebecca is brilliant, beautiful, and she's made me a better person. She comes from humble beginnings, but she's built an incredible life for herself. She's proof that success is about determination, not circumstance." There it was again. That phrase, humble beginnings. Her father, Robert, couldn't be here at the head table due to space constraints, but he's here in spirit, and we appreciate him supporting Rebecca throughout her life. Let's give him a wave. The spotlight swung to table 12. I raised my hand slightly. Polite applause rippled through the room. Trevor continued. "Rebecca has shown me that family isn't about wealth or status. It's about love, and I promise to give her the life she deserves, the life she's worked so hard to build." More applause. Rebecca was crying, but I couldn't tell if they were happy tears or something else. I excused myself and walked to the lobby. I needed air. I was standing near the hotel's grand staircase when my phone rang. David Chen. Robert, I'm sorry to bother you at the wedding, but we have a situation. What kind of situation? The Ontario Superior Court just issued an emergency injunction against one of our tenants, Hartley and Cross. Apparently, there's a dispute over lease terms, and they're threatening to sue us for breach of contract. The judge wants both parties in chambers Monday morning at 9. I close my eyes. Hartley and Cross, Trevor's firm. What's the claim? They're saying we didn't provide adequate ventilation upgrades as promised in the lease renewal. Their senior partner, some guy named Gordon Blackwood, is leading the charge. Gordon Blackwood, Trevor's father, the architect. Send me the files, I said. I'll handle it. You're coming back to the office? Monday morning. Full capacity. I hung up and stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of inevitability settling over me. I hadn't planned this, hadn't orchestrated some elaborate reveal, but fate, it seemed, had other ideas. I went back to the reception, danced once with Rebecca, who was radiant despite everything. She introduced me to some of Trevor's colleagues from the firm, young lawyers who shook my hand with the same limp, dismissive grip Trevor had given me 18 months ago. One of them, a woman named Carolyn, actually said, "It's so nice that Rebecca stayed close to her roots. Not everyone does when they marry up." I smiled, said nothing, waited. The wedding ended around midnight. Rebecca and Trevor left for their honeymoon in Tuscany. I drove home to my real house in Forest Hill, poured myself a scotch, and reviewed the Hartley and Cross files David had sent. The case was flimsy. We'd provided every upgrade specified in the lease. Gordon Blackwood was fishing, hoping we'd settle to avoid litigation. It was a tactic he'd probably used successfully on smaller landlords. He didn't know who he was dealing with. Monday morning, I walked into the Ontario Superior Court building in a charcoal Tom Ford suit. My lawyer, Patricia Mohan, met me in the hallway outside the judge's chambers. "They're already here," she said. "Gordon Blackwood and 2 associates. They seem confident." Good. We entered the chambers. Judge Marion Yates sat behind her desk, reviewing documents. Gordon Blackwood sat across from her with his team, looking every bit the successful architect turned litigious landlord hunter. He glanced up when I walked in. His expression flickered with confusion, then dismissal. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? He'd seen me once, in a suit at his son's engagement party, and filed me away as irrelevant. Judge Yates looked up. "Mr. Garrison, thank you for coming." Gordon's head snapped toward me. "Garrison?" "Robert Garrison," Patricia said smoothly. "Founder and chairman of Garrison Properties." The color drained from Gordon's face. Judge Yates continued. "Mr. Blackwood, you've brought a claim against Garrison Properties, alleging breach of lease terms. Mr. Garrison is here to respond." I sat down across from Gordon, met his eyes, said nothing. Patricia laid out our case efficiently. Every ventilation upgrade completed on schedule, every inspection passed, every communication documented. The lease terms weren't just met, they were exceeded. Gordon stammered through a response, but his confidence had evaporated. He kept glancing at me, recognition dawning in stages. The janitor, the father-in-law, the man he'd pitied at the engagement party. Judge Yates wasn't impressed. "Mr. Blackwood, this appears to be a frivolous claim. I'm dismissing it with prejudice. You'll be responsible for Mr. Garrison's legal fees. Your Honor, if I may." "You may not. We're done here." We filed out. In the hallway, Gordon caught up to me, his associates trailing behind. "Robert." "Mr. Garrison, I didn't realize that I was the janitor." I stopped walking. "Or that the janitor owned your building?" This is a misunderstanding." "Is it? Which part? The part where you sued my company for a fabricated claim? Or the part where you publicly pitied me at your son's engagement party?" His mouth opened, closed. "Trevor doesn't know, does he? About who you are?" "Not yet." "Are you going to tell him?" I considered the question, thought about Trevor walking past me in hallways for 18 months without acknowledgement, thought about Rebecca being told she'd risen above her circumstances, thought about table 12 behind the decorative column. "No," I said finally. "I'm not going to tell him. You are." "What?" "You're going to tell your son that you just tried to sue your father-in-law. That the janitor you've been dismissing is the man who could evict your firm with one phone call. And you're going to tell him why you didn't recognize me. Because people like you and Trevor don't see people like me. We're invisible until we're not. Gordon's face went gray. This will ruin him. He'll be humiliated. Then perhaps he'll learn something. I walked away. Patricia followed, suppressing a smile. That was restrained, she said. Margaret would have wanted restraint. Margaret would have wanted justice. Maybe this is both. The call came 3 days later. Rebecca, back from her honeymoon, sobbing on the phone. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Tell you what, sweetheart? That you own Garrison Properties. That you're wealthy. That you've been lying to me my entire life. I closed my eyes. I never lied. I just didn't correct your assumptions. Trevor's family is furious. His father tried to sue you. Do you know how humiliating this is for Trevor? I imagine it's about as humiliating as being seated behind a column at his own father-in-law's expense. Silence. You knew about that? I knew about all of it, Rebecca. Every dismissive comment. Every assumption. Every moment Trevor and his family treated me like I was less than human because I mopped floors. So this was a test? You were testing him? I was observing. There's a difference. And he failed. That's not for me to say. More silence. Then, quietly, Mom knew, didn't she, about the money? Your mother and I built that company together. She was the one who wanted you raised without it. She wanted you to value people for who they are, not what they have. And look how that turned out. I married someone who values exactly what I was taught not to. You married someone you love. That's not wrong. But he doesn't respect you. He doesn't respect me, not really. I'm just the girl who rose above her circumstances. Her voice broke. God, Dad, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. We all want to believe the best in people we love. What do I do now? I thought about Margaret, about the values we tried to instill, about the daughter we'd raised to see clearly, even when it hurt. You make a choice, I said. You decide if Trevor can learn from this, if he's capable of growth, if he's willing to see his mistakes and change. And if he's not, you decide if you can live with that. And if I can't, then you come home, and you rebuild, and you remember that your worth has nothing to do with anyone else's opinion. She cried for a while. I listened. I need time to think, she said finally. Take all the time you need. She hung up. I sat in my office on the 42nd floor of Garrison Tower, looking out over the city I'd helped build. Below me, somewhere in those floors, a maintenance worker was probably emptying trash bins, invisible to the lawyers and accountants and consultants who walked past without seeing. I hoped someone saw them, really saw them. 3 weeks later, Rebecca called again. I'm leaving him, she said. I gave him a chance to apologize, to acknowledge what he did, how he treated you. He said you were the one who should apologize for deceiving us. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Don't be. You taught me something. You and Mom both. You taught me that how people treat those who can't benefit them shows their real character. Trevor failed that test every single day. What will you do? I'm moving back to my apartment. Filed for divorce this morning. It's going to be messy, but I have a good lawyer. Do you need help? Financially? Dad, I just found out you're worth $400 million. I think you can spare the legal fees. I laughed, despite everything. I meant emotionally. I know, and yes. Can I come over tonight? To your real house? It's your house too. Always has been. She came that evening, walked through the Forest Hill home she'd never seen, touching furniture and looking at photos of her mother in rooms she'd never known existed. This is weird, she said. I know, but also kind of amazing. Mom decorated this? Every inch. She picked up a photo from the mantel. Margaret and me on our wedding day, young and broke and deliriously happy. She'd be proud of me, right? For leaving? She'd be proud of you for knowing your worth. Rebecca set the photo down. Teach me about the business. I want to learn. I want to understand what you and Mom built. You sure? I've spent my whole life trying to prove I could succeed on my own. Maybe it's time I learned that accepting help isn't weakness. That family legacy isn't something to run from. I pulled her into a hug. Tomorrow. We'll start tomorrow. And Dad? Yeah? Thank you. For letting me figure it out on my own, even when it hurt. I thought about Margaret. About the values we'd fought to preserve. About the long game we'd played, hoping our daughter would learn what truly mattered. That's what parents do, I said. We trust you to find your way, even when the path is hard. She stayed for dinner. We talked about the business, about her mother, about the future, and for the first time in 7 years, the house didn't feel quite so empty. Trevor called once, 3 months later. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Mr. Garrison, I owe you an apology. I was arrogant and blind, and I treated you abominably. I treated Rebecca like a trophy instead of a partner. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I lost. And it wasn't her last name or your money. It was the chance to be part of a family that actually knew what mattered. I saved the voicemail. Didn't call back. Some lessons need to sit in silence. Rebecca thrives now. She's learning the business, bringing fresh ideas and a perspective I'd lost decades ago. She's dating again, someone she met at a charity event. A teacher. He came to Sunday dinner last month and helped me wash dishes afterward, chatting about his students like they were the most important people in the world. Rebecca watched from the doorway, smiling. He sees people, she said later. Really sees them, like your mother did, like you taught me to. I'm back to working the executive floor now. No more janitorial disguises. But every morning when I arrive at Garrison Tower, I stop to talk to the maintenance staff, learn their names, ask about their lives. Because I spent 23 years learning what most people never understand. Everyone matters. Everyone deserves to be seen. And the people who can't grasp that simple truth will always be the poorest, no matter how much money they have. That's the lesson Trevor learned too late. That's the lesson I hope Rebecca carries forward. And that's the legacy Margaret and I built together, brick by brick, one respectful interaction at a time. It's not about the buildings you own. It's about the dignity you preserve. In yourself, in others, in the quiet moments when no one's watching and there's nothing to gain. That's the only wealth that truly matters. And it's the one thing you can't buy, no matter how many floors you own.